let's dive into the first big segment this week, shall we? And kick off Pro Soccer Talk. That is, of course, what and who is next for Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, where did Spurs go, Andy, after that really limp, disappointing Champions League exit? Of course, the team close to your heart, the team you support. But they went out of the Champions League at the last 16 stage with a whimper against AC Milan. The second leg, drew 0-0 at home. I mean, what is next for them? I mean, all they've got to fight for is a top four finish. You've got comments from Antonio Conte and Richarlison really kind of negative and downbeat after the game and not holding back. So there's a lot to unpack here. So I'll let you go.
Yeah, I don't know who is next, but I know that what is next is pain. It's always pain for Tottenham. That's just right around the corner. And it hits even harder this season because of what the narrative was coming into the season and the thought that could this be the season that they maybe insert themselves into an actual title challenge this season. I didn't buy into it just because it felt like the squad lacked a little bit of that elite quality at the very, very top. It felt like the squad was solid, but to be a Premier League title winning team, and we're seeing it from Arsenal, we've seen it from Manchester City in recent years, we've seen it from Liverpool as well. You need not just one elite star player in the squad. And I think that is where they have kind of fallen short for a number of years. They have not really supported Harry Kane in the way that they needed to have done to make the most of probably the greatest career in club history. And I don't want to go so far as to say they've wasted his career or the best years of his career, but if they've won nothing, he's won nothing. And now that they might not finish top four again this season, the conversation about will he leave in the summer is surely going to come back. So it's just, pain. There's questions all around with the manager, the squad up and down. I think 6 of the 7 players who have played the most minutes in the Premier League this season, 29 years or older. So it's not a young squad that has the opportunity to really develop or grow too much in the future for whoever the new manager is coming in. So there's not a ton to work with. There's a lot of new players it's just, it's a bad state for Spurs to be in right now. And yet somehow, I don't know how, they currently sit 4th in the table.
Yeah, I feel like that was quite cathartic for you. So, I'm glad you got all that off your chest right there. But you're right.
After watching 180 minutes against AC Milan that team put in, you got to let some of it out. And Richarlison, to his credit, did the same.
Yeah, exactly. You can see the table there, though, at the bottom of the screen. Obviously, Spurs, 45 points, Liverpool game in hand, and other teams around them have games in hand. But Spurs can still do it. You're right. The season isn't over. Antonio Conte has been having some interesting comments saying, obviously, my contract runs out at the end of the season. I've told the club, then we'll sit down then and discuss. But everything is kind of pointing towards nobody really wants him there anymore. He doesn't seem like he wants to be there anymore. I mean, is there a conversation to be had about, is it best for Tottenham, if they want to finish in the top 4, for Conte to leave now and maybe someone else to come in? Because when we talk about the who next, Mauricio Pochettino is being linked. He's available. He's free. He had great success at Tottenham before he went on, obviously, to Paris Saint-Germain. So, I don't know. I'm intrigued as who is next and sort of when is next, I guess, to carry on with that theme. When would be the right time to move on from Conte? Because it's, again, intriguing timing for Spurs. Do you just wait and let it peter out at the end of the season? Or do you say, okay, let's try and nip this in the bud. Let's get onto the next step and let's make sure we finish in the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, 3 games without a goal across all competitions, including against Sheffield United in the FA Cup. Nothing is changing so long as the manager remains in place, whether it's him, whether it's Christian Stellini, his assistant. The system has just not worked at Spurs. And that was my greatest fear, even before they hired him in the summer when they hired Nuno Espirito Santo, was, Antonio Conte does not fit Spurs. He does not fit the idea of what Spurs is, the way that Spurs want to play. It also doesn't fit the squad. And I think that has been proven time after time, save for maybe a 4 or 5 week period to finish last season where he let them play very un-Antonio Conte-like. They were very attacking. They were very aggressive going forward because they were playing from 5th place, trying to chase down Arsenal and finish 4th. And so they had a bit of a freedom to the way that they played. And that's the only period during his tenure that you could say that about Spurs. And so it's very disappointing to have had that evidence on the field, seen what this squad can do, and to have then reverted back to an incredibly defensive and frankly boring style of play. It's not fun to watch. Like, even when Spurs were at their most hilariously bad, they were still fun to watch. There was something redeeming about them, and he has just taken that away. And so it does feel like he needs to go as soon as possible if this team is to even remain in the race for fourth. I could see them finishing, if he stays in the job, 6, 8, 10 points off of fourth by the end of the season, because the mood around the club is just so negative. You said it. He doesn't want to be there. The players don't want him to be there. The only reason he is still there is because he has to be fired to get the rest of the money due to him in his contract. And until the club does that, he'll keep showing up. And so, yeah, Pochettino is the easy answer, but I don't know that it's the right answer. You can romanticize that all you want as Spurs fans. I do think he fits the squad a little bit, but it needs a rebuild. And does he want to do that again? I guess would be the question, because he did that once at Spurs. Does he want to undertake another 2 or 3 year project to get them back, probably back into the Champions League and back to where he took them at one point?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And it's like a Back to the Future kind of scenario, right? Where he's just gonna, what are Tottenham, I guess, is my big next question for them. It's because when he was there, they were in the top 4 every season. He built them up to that. Obviously, kind of had title challenges a couple of the seasons, got to the Champions League final, League Cup final, FA Cup semi-final. So that, to me, is where Tottenham should be with the quality of players they have.
Yeah.
We talk about the stadium and how that's going to lead to investment, but it's been difficult because they've been in and out of the Champions League ever since they moved to that stadium. But if Poch comes in now, then basically, like you mentioned there, it's exactly the same job he had before, but probably with more upside this time. I think if they do get it right like he did last time, and it does work with this group of players, then I think you could add better pieces given the finances around. But tell me what you think. What are Tottenham? What is achievable?
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, that's a more positive light than I've taken at any point, considering what the managerial change is inevitably going to be for the club. The only thing that I will say is I don't care about so much the results in this period right now, because it is about the mood around the club. And I do think that if he comes back in, here I am talking like it's going to happen already. But if he comes back in, it feels like the togetherness of everything immediately comes back together, and everybody starts pulling in the same direction. And so Richarlison is an interesting player for the way that Pochettino plays. And that has kind of been in the back of my head throughout the entire time as this season has just kind of dragged on for Spurs, thinking, what could he do as a secondary center forward, or potentially Harry Kane dropping back a little bit more kind of into a number 10 role as that pressing forward up top and setting the tone. There's upside. You're right. That's the right word. And they've got the stadium now. They've got the finances in place. But, finishing top 4 this season is massively important for Spurs, for the players that they'll be able to attract, for the money that they will be able to spend, just as it is the case for Liverpool. So that race, as much as the title race and as much as the relegation race, a lot at stake for the final dozen games of the season.
Absolutely. And of course, when you look at Spurs, Heung-min Son's been totally off at this season. Kulusevski's been having injuries and a struggle for form. And Kane's been trying to hold it together on his own. But it's kind of like they can never get Kane and Son firing on all cylinders together. And if they could somehow, if Poch could somehow come back and reignite that, and I do think with a few new defenders potentially as well, that there's the potential there for him to replicate some of the success he had in this first spell. But we'll keep you updated with all the latest news on Tottenham Hotspur. The potential search for a new manager of Antonio Conte does move on now or in the summer. But Spurs, their whole focus now after crashing out of the Champions League in disappointing fashion, exiting the cup competitions already. Of course, it's all on. It always seems to be on for Tottenham. Can they finish in the top 4? And it'll be intriguing to see if they can get it over the line. Right now, they're 4th. Not a lot of positive vibes in the air in that part of North London. So let's wait and see, Andy. It's going to be an intriguing few months for your Tottenham Hotspur side.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.